I come here to say to you today, do not overstep your own boundary. Here's what I'm talking about. Before we proceed, let me just go on record and say that I have been a repeat offender of this crime. I have overstepped my own boundary in the name of love, in the name of wanting to help people, in the name of you name them. I've overstepped it. But as I began to grow in my walk with Christ, grow in the knowledge of God, and grow in my Christian faith, I realized that there are certain things that I have to do to make sure that I'm okay, so that I'm able to function in every other role that I play. And so let me just share with you something that happened today, and maybe this will give some insight. I'm going to try my best to be as vague as I can, because it's not about trying to put spotlight on a person. It's all about just trying to give an example. And this is the freshest in my mind. And so I don't know if you have a person in your life that, that tends to want to compete with you, right? So if you say, hey, I got a new job. Oh my gosh, my job, this is happening at my job. And you're like, I just shared, or hey, I just met someone great. Well, the real people to meet great is over here with me, because so. And then it's like, well, I just broke my ankle. Well, my ankle was been hurting all this time. Yeah. And I'm like, why would you want to compete with me about my life? And why would you want to do that? Because it doesn't serve you or me. And anyway, so as I'm sitting there now, I know that this person has a problem with seeing past themselves. I know this person have a tendency of making everything about them. I know this person, based upon characteristic traits, at least most of them, I would say she falls as a narcissist. I know this about them. I know that they have jealousy issues, covetousness issues. I know this about them. And yet, when we were in conversation today, I misread the room, apparently, because I decided to share something about me, which is something I normally, in this relationship, in a lot of relationships, I don't do. And it's not because I'm trying to hide, it's because I've just learned not to do that. And so I was sitting there, and she said something, and it sparked a memory. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when. And then I shared, I remember when. And I'm putting it together like, oh, wow, that happened, because this had to be 20 years, maybe more ago. And I'm like, okay, this is how that happened. And soon as I finished the last syllable, it was off to the competition lines. Yep. And so and so and so. And it just turned into something else. So yeah, so we all got this. And I'm like, wow, I just shared something about me with you. Tender moment. This would have been a bonded moment, but you chose this moment to do what you do. And though this is not like the hardcore boundary line, for me, my boundary was, okay, you want to be careful with who you share yourself with, because everyone is not worthy of that. And when I say share yourself, I'm talking about share your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, your laughs. You want to be careful of that. You have to be careful of that. And so with the individual who is a narcissist, you don't want to get that deep with them. And trust me, they're not going to let you, because it's all about them. And true to form, right on cue, it turned into a her show. And so I know that she didn't mean it. And I there's no fault that I am going to try to, it's not about fault, blame shifting or anything. Nothing with blame. But it is about the boundary that I set for myself, right? You know that there are certain people that's inside of your circle that you can share things with, who will not use it against you when when things go, awry, who will not use it to try to get a leg up, or who will not throw you under the bus in order to step on you, because they feel like they just need a couple of more inches to get to where they're trying to go. And so in me learning how to keep those boundaries and stay within, making sure that I acknowledge and that I keep those boundaries, I have to know who I'm speaking with. I have to make sure that I'm sharing the right things with the right people, right? And you don't want to share a tender moment of yourself with someone who's not going to appreciate the fact that you just shared a part of yourself with them. Now, I know all of us have stories, and I know all of us have stories whereby something similar to what I've shared, or maybe you set a boundary of money. You know, maybe you have a relative or a friend, a coworker, they always want money, and you give them more, and the next week they need more. Or maybe it's, that person who, can I just stay here for a week? And it's been like a year now, I don't know, but I'm sure a boundary or two that you have a tendency of overstepping, that every time you get out of their presence and every time you get out of that circumstance, you say to yourself, I'll never get back in that again. Okay, this is what you got to do to take care of yourself, because it's not about selfish. I'm no good to nobody if I cannot function. Amen. And so you're no good to anyone if you cannot function. And so while you're in the process of getting stronger, you have to make sure that you're taking care of you. And you also have to make sure that you're keeping and you're honoring your own boundary, because you can't expect people to honor what you don't honor yourself. So my advice to you is keep that boundary, because you put it there for a reason. You set it there for a reason. Sometimes when people are selfish, sometimes when people are distracted, sometimes when people are narcissists, sometimes when people are just really into themselves, they don't take into consideration what they're doing to you. And after you have your exchange with them, you have to leave home with you. And you have to try to pull yourself out of that depression. You have to try to give yourself, or strengthen yourself. You have to pull yourself up again. And so remember that, not in a negative way, but in a way that says there was a reason I put this boundary here. And if I overstep my own boundary, then I cannot expect them to honor it and to respect it. In addition to that, if I overstep my own boundary, there's a very strong likelihood that what has happened in the past would just repeat itself in the future. So it may feel kind of difficult to say no when you're so used to saying yes. It may be difficult to hard set that boundary, especially in the beginning when you're starting out and you're just like, Jesus, this is hard to do. And of course, the people who like to violate your boundaries are just they're going to cut up. They're going to act a mess. They're going to complain. They're going to murmur and everything, right? But you keep on moving. You keep on. And I'm talking about healthy boundaries. I'm talking about taking care of you in a good way, because you cannot be whatever you are, whether you are a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, a customer service rep, whatever, mom, dad, whoever you are. You need to be the best you that you need to be, especially in ministry. I can't put an emphasis on that, because sometimes people think or fail to remember that we also have emotions and feelings, and we're people too. And so I say all that to say, don't overstep your own boundary. You put them there for a reason. They're there for a good reason, to protect you. So make sure you honor it, and eventually they'll honor it too. God bless.